Everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the Samsung Galaxy S21 and compare it against the Samsung Galaxy S24 and see which particular phone is the better one for you. Now, both these devices are great. I love them a lot. I will tell you though, I did a battery comparison yesterday and the S21 did outperform the S22 and S20, but the S24 did beat it, so just kind of keep that in mind. But if you want to pick up some phones I would recommend buying this year, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there and you can help support the channel at the same time. Starting off with the outside of both of these, you can definitely tell there's a lot of overlap between them. They both look very, very similar. The Samsung Galaxy S21, which came out back in 2021 on the front, had a 6.2-inch dynamic AMOLED display. And it was a pretty good looking panel. I still think it's a very good looking display for the most part. There's not really that much craziness to kind of complain about with this type of display. It was 120 Hz. It was a flat display. The one before this, the S20, was kind of curved, but this one is completely flat. You had the hole punch display in the top center, and overall, still a very, very good looking display. Is it perfect? No. There were some really weird changes Samsung threw in with this phone, but the display still looks pretty good, and I think it's a pretty good looking phone for the most part. With the Galaxy S24, on the other hand, this is a different story. This is a better panel, so it's the same size, 6.2 inches. It's a dynamic LTPO AMOLED display, still 120 Hz, and you may still think it looks the same, but there's a few things going on. One, I definitely do think this is a better looking panel, and two, the big thing here, this panel gets twice as bright as the Galaxy S21's. This one had 1300 nits of brightness. This one has 2600, at its peak. That's a very big difference here. So if you're talking about which phone has the better panel, I would definitely say that the Galaxy S24 has a way better panel than the Galaxy S21. But the S21's panel is still pretty good. Now on the sides, you can see definitely a different type of styling Samsung's thrown into their phones this year. So now we basically have a completely flat side on the Galaxy S24. The Galaxy S21, you're kind of getting this curved flat side. It's kind of flat on one side, then it's kind of curved in. I don't really know how to explain it, but it's definitely not as modern feeling as the Galaxy S24. Another thing to keep in mind, you're getting this kind of reflective material, which is kind of cool, and I really like this color of the S21. Probably this rose gold color was one of my most favorite colors that Samsung threw into their phone. I don't know why they haven't brought it back. You can see 2 microphone holes at the very top. At the bottom, you're getting this, USB Type-C port, which is great, and you're getting SIM card trays almost in the exact same spot, and the speaker goes in the same spot. I kind of forgot they're almost in the same spot for so many years now. So, on the back side, kind of similar design too. I think the S21, I credit the S21 of kind of bringing a better looking phone to the S series. I think before this, most of their S phones on the back did not look that good. The S21 did change it up, but they did bring a plastic back to this phone. I don't know why they did that. It was a very, very weird thing. I wish they didn't do it, but again, there's nothing really we can do about it. But that was one thing going on for this particular device. You were basically in this plastic back. The Galaxy S24 does have this frosted glass back, which feels very good. I love having a frosted glass back, and it definitely feels a lot better than the S21's. But I will tell you, the S21 is kind of, grown on me a little bit, and it's kind of funny that this phone at this point kind of feels still pretty decent, which even though it has a plastic back. Wireless charging, reverse wireless charging as well. You had this camera bump here, which looked pretty nice, triple camera setups on both. And definitely on the outside, I would definitely say, although the S21 had a plastic back, I still kind of felt like Samsung could have done a little bit of a better job at this moment. But I still think both phones are great. They have a lot of capability as well. But I definitely say the S24 definitely feels a lot more premium than the Galaxy S21. So that kind of covers it up there. Now in terms of the overall, everything else going on for this particular phone, I think the Samsung Galaxy S21 is a very, very good phone from a, performance kind of perspective. But from a software longevity, this is not a phone that's going to last an insanely long amount of time. I think it's going to be getting one more version of Android maybe, and then that's it. Versus the Galaxy S24, one of its biggest advantages is that it's basically going to be lasting for another 7 years. That's what Samsung's stating, and that is a pretty big statement. The fact that this phone could last that long is pretty insane. So you're definitely going to be getting a longer lasting phone from something like the Samsung Galaxy S24 over something like the Samsung Galaxy S21. So definitely keep that in mind, and probably the biggest reason to jump up to this phone. Now let's do a speed comparison. The Galaxy S24 has that Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 chipset inside with 8 gigs of RAM on the base model, but it does go up to 12. This one has 8. The S21 has a Snapdragon 888 chipset inside with 8 gigabytes of RAM. So let's go and see which one's the faster one between both. Okay, there we go. Hopping on all the apps in the background, as you can see, they're all cleared out. S21 is here, S24 is here. Let's do phone calls 321. Perfect. Let's go into messages 321. Okay, very fast on both. Camera 321. The S24 is slightly faster, but that was actually, there's a lot of overlap here. Now you can see within night mode, small things like that, you're going to notice some pretty big differences. Galaxy Store 321. roughly around the same thing. Play Store 321. And again, the Galaxy S24 is slightly faster. Scrolling through, I think they're both going to be roughly around the same. I don't know why the S24 is taking so long to load. But you can kind of see, I mean, definitely the S21 is doing pretty decent. We have some other apps we can test. Snapchat 321. Kind of the same thing. Quizlet 321. About the same thing too. Bofa 321. Okay, some pretty interesting stuff going on here. We can go ahead and get into our game hub. So I'm going to go and just grab this game launcher. I'm just going to drag it to the home screen here, and we're just going to go and load up game launcher. Okay, some different pop-ups all over the place. And let's go and load it into some games. So we do have some games here. Snake vs. Blocks 321. So I hate loading these games up in a game launcher, but I really have no other choice. So you can even see from here, the Galaxy S24 was slightly faster. Getting into the game, I don't really think there's going to be that big of a difference. Let's get into the next game. So let's go back into here. Let's go and try something like Subway Surfers, which I don't have. Let's go ahead and try, what other games do we have? Temple Run 2, 3, 2, 1. So I don't know why I didn't load from this one. We're just going to go ahead and just kind of try it out again. I want to see if this one would still be faster, even though I clicked into it later. And even though I clicked into the Galaxy S24s later, it almost loaded up in the exact same time. So it was almost identically the same speed. So think about how much faster it would have been if I did click it in the same exact time. So that right there is a very big thing to keep in mind. If you're talking about these two phones, there's a pretty big difference there. Stack 321. But I will tell you, the Galaxy S21's 888 chipset was still very good. You know, you were getting a very good chipset on this type of device. And I actually still use an 888 chipset quite a bit, I think, for some gaming that I do. For some like mobile gaming kind of. And it's actually been a pretty good chipset. I don't really have that much to complain about. It's a very good phone because you can just buy it for fairly cheap and still have a very good, like, robust phone when it comes down to it. So from that perspective, I will tell you from a speed standpoint, you're definitely going to be getting very fast phones between both. But the Galaxy S24 is definitely going to be faster over a longer period of time. Like, that is going to be the phone that you're going to get if you want a longer lasting phone. But it's still surprising to me how good of a job that particular phone does on the 888 chipset, you know, from my perspective. So it's actually a pretty insane thing. So that kind of covers it up there. Now, in terms of the camera side of things, this phone actually does have a pretty good camera too. I mean, both of these phones, they have triple camera setups, and on the surface, it may seem like they're very similar, but there's still a lot of overlap between both. Wide, ultra-wide telephoto lenses. You're getting 4K at 60 on the front and the back, and you're getting 8K capability on the back of both of them as well. And you can kind of see that the layouts are very similar between both as well. Like you have the single take and video mode and more mode. So there's a lot more options, you know, between both. But you can see that there's like basically a lot of overlap. The thing with the Galaxy S21's camera was that it was a pretty good camera when it first came out, and it still actually holds up fairly well. You're getting 30x zoom here. You're getting 0.5x zoom on the outside. And it's still a fairly good phone. It's not perfect. My main gripes with this camera is that one, like in social media applications, it doesn't hold up that well. But I do think for an average camera, I mean, this thing is, you can get some really nice videos and photos from this thing. And I'll say, like, it does kind of hold up kind of okay against even like a Galaxy S24. There's not really like an insane feature that I look at with the Galaxy S24 and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is way better. Samsung did mention that, you know, in social media apps, it can perform better. It's funny though, this one gets 0.6x zoom and the same zooming in with a 30x zoom. So I'll definitely tell you from a lot of different ways, there's lots of overlap here. But I would definitely say the S24 is better, but the S21 really isn't that bad of a camera. And it's funny because the more I kind of compare the S21 to the newer phones, the more I'm actually kind of like happy about the S21. The S24 is the better phone here. I think we all know that it's going to be better in every single way. But this is the newest phone. It's like $900 or something. So it should be a better phone in every single way. I'm actually pretty shocked though that with something like the S21, so many years later, this phone is still holding up so well in so many different ways. So I'll say get the S24, but if you want to save some money, you could always buy an S21 and still get a very, very decent price from that perspective. So that pretty much covers it up there. If you have any other thoughts or questions though, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.